You mean to tell me that God was talking to people for thousands of years, and then all of a sudden he stopped talking to people? Well, no, I don't believe it. I think God still talks to us. We're just not writing it down, or maybe we are, but we're not writing it down in the books. But God still's talking to us, and there's still miracles that are being performed. The difference is, in order to perform a miracle, you got to do miracle-worthy things. You have to take risks on miracles for them to happen. If you don't attempt miracle-worthy things, how's a miracle going to happen? And so I tell my athlete, I tell my son, I say, in order to make the game-winning shot, you have to take the game-winning shot.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Masters of the Game. Today, I get to introduce you to Khadevis Robinson, and he goes by KD. I'm so excited to have him today, and I always get to brag on my guests before bringing them on, and welcome to the show. But let me tell you a little bit about Khadevis. He was actually introduced from a kind of mutual friend of ours, a person he's interacted with before. But right now, Khadevis is the director of track and field at Texas Christian University. So shout out to all you Horned Frogs down in Texas right now and around the world. But fascinating background, right? Olympian, NCAA champion. And just to give you some highlights, I find this fascinating. You know, God didn't bless me with speed. He blessed me with quickness. So I'm not going to challenge him to a race because he'd leave me in the dust. Absolutely. But 4-time U.S. indoor champion and outdoor champion. He's a 6-time silver medalist in the 800 meters at the USA Outdoor Champions, a pair of runner-up finishes at the U.S. Olympic Track and Field Trials. He was a graduate of TCU in 1998. He has a master's degree in public administration from Cal State Los Angeles. And here's the really cool thing. Not only is he an elite athlete, having, competed for the United States in the 2004 and 2012 Olympics, but he has switched to coaching, right? He's coached at UNLV, LSU, Ohio State, and now his alma mater of TCU. So Khadevis, man, thank you so much for taking the time. So excited to have you.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be on.
This will be great. All right. So I'm going to take you down memory lane first.
All right.
You've had a pretty amazing career in the kind of track and field space, running all these 800-meter races. But what's one of your greatest memories from collegiate days, Olympian days? Like, what's one of the greatest memories and why?
Do you mean track in particular or just in general?
We'll say track in general.
I have a couple of pretty interesting days. I'll say this, the mind expanded never goes back to its original form. So I tell people that in high school, the best I ever did was that I got 4th in the state in Texas. I didn't make the state meet until my senior year. Didn't make it my freshman, sophomore, or junior year in high school. Made it my senior year. I got 4th. So it wasn't like I was some type of superstar. Didn't get recruited by a lot of schools. Took one official visit. That was here to TCU. And I'm from Fort Worth. So I'm from 15 minutes down the road. And I got here and things started, going fairly well. But I thought I could do well, right? But I didn't know what that would look like. And I remember, I think it was either my sophomore or junior year, I remember being over a friend's house, distance guy, and they had a track and field news magazine on the table. And I looked in the track and field news magazine, and my friend was looking at it with me. He said, "Oh my goodness, KD, they got you predicted to get, top 5 or 6 or whatever." And I was like, "Huh?" And I remember looking at it, and I remember thinking, you know what? If track and field news and if the authorities believe that I should be top 6 or 7 in the nation, then I really am good enough to do that. And I remember it changed the way I thought about everything. I thought I could, but it was never like validated, like, okay, you can. I knew I couldn't decide, but I never thought, you're supposed to actually. Not only can you, but you're kind of supposed to. And that changed the trajectory of, my career.
That's amazing. Okay. I can't tell you how many stories I hear about, athletes who at the high school level, and this is even true of like collegiate level, right? They just keep working, and they're working their way up. And it's not, but they're this golden child of like, oh my gosh, they sprinted fast out of the womb, right? In this case, right? It's just that continued growth and development, things like that. What is it inside you that like gives you that drive, that gave you that drive to like keep going? And even in high school where you weren't recruited, you knew, was there something special? Like, what was it about you? Was it the dream? Was it like just the way you were raised and born? I don't know. Like, what was it about that?
It was a couple of things. The first thing I would say my parents, even though we was poor and we had a lot of challenges and obstacles and, but they never really told me what I couldn't do. They always, if I said I wanted to be a lawyer, they supported me 100%. My parents made me feel like I could do anything. Like they really did. I felt like whatever I wanted to accomplish, I could accomplish it. And I just felt like I was the most handsome. Even if I could not get any girls, I feel like I was the most handsome guy in the world. And even though I was poor, and even though we had we went through so much, they always encouraged me to be able to go after my dreams and goals, and they made me feel like I could accomplish them. So I think that's one thing. The second thing, and this is not to be underestimated, is that, I had to grind, but I knew how to grind. I knew how to struggle. I knew how to fight. I knew how to work through. I knew how to solve problems on my own. I knew how to face the obstacles and not run from them when they came in front of me. I knew how to fail and fail forward. So because I had to go through a lot of things, because I had to walk to school and not get into fights, because I had to, avoid drugs, whatever that may be, when I encountered other obstacles in life, I knew how to overcome them. And so whenever I got to, TCU, it was a different world. Now, mind you, this is only 15 minutes away from my house, not even that far, 10 minutes away from my high school, but it's a different world. It's like when you go down, one of our main streets is Berry. When you go down Berry, you cross the railroad tracks and you cross the freeway, and it becomes inner city, to say the least. And so even though I'm so close to home, people say you went to school at home. I'm like, no, not really, because it really is a different world here. TCU is an absolutely amazing place. And so I had to learn to adjust and adapt. But what I had inside of me was, even though when I got here, the academic rigors was very strenuous and tough, I knew how to face problems and face obstacles, and I knew how to try and overcome them.
Why did you choose to take that path and fight through the stuff, and by not getting in fights, as an example, like you just said, and to face them head on and to figure it out? Why did you choose that path where it doesn't matter where you come from, but we all have that opportunity to choose a path every day. We have decisions all the time. Was it because the parents, your parents were just you can do anything? That's what I wanted.
Well, some of it is a bit of what we would call luck, even though a lot of us don't believe in luck. Some of it is luck. But let me give you this example. So we all have a turning point, right? And they always talk about the straw that breaks the camel's back, right? So what happens when you're in certain environments is that maybe for some people, it's the fifth straw that breaks them. And maybe for others, it's the 50th straw. And so maybe you figure it out at the 40th straw, so you never got to the 50th straw that broke you, where somebody else got to that fifth straw really, really early. There were individuals that went to my high school. There was individuals that was in the neighborhood I lived in was called the Village. It was supposedly the worst neighborhood in all of Fort Worth, definitely in South Fort Worth. And I had friends, and to this day, I know them, that was just as smart as I am, or was just as dedicated, parents just as, they had all those, a lot of them was way faster than me, more athletically talented than I was, better in school, the whole nine, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out. And it wasn't always because of bad decisions they made, right? Sometimes it could be something as simple as, getting in the car with your friend or getting in the car with your cousin. And I think what gets lost in the shuffle is that we assume when we watch something on TV or we hear stories, we go, well, why did you get in the car with that gang member? Or why did you get in the car with that? Well, no, that was his brother. That was his uncle.
Yes.
So it's like, your uncle has the ride. He has the car. You don't have a car. So you want to ride to the store, you get in the car with your uncle. You don't have the foresight to say, well, my uncle is 10, 15 years older than I am, and he's been in gangs. And so I need to ride to the store and I don't have a ride. I'm not going to ride my uncle, because if I ride with, you're 15 years old. You haven't lived enough to experience that type of stuff. So some of it is luck like that. And other parts is that, I believe in God. And so God might put something in us, and every once in a while we'll say, you know what, maybe I should just walk this time. Right. So I think I was always one of those that, luckily when it came to make that big decision, I was always fortunate enough to make the right one.
That's so good. Yeah, it's funny how, again, I'm a believer as well. And, we hear these whispers, and even if you're not you hear these, you get these gut feelings, right? Where you're like, I don't know. And whether it's like that belief that from the higher power that, you know, God's given you this message, or the gut feeling, it's like the importance of paying attention to some of that
Yeah.
stuff, like
Yeah.
when you hear or when you feel that.
Yeah. And see, that insight, because we're going to fail and we're going to make mistakes, and this is life. This is life. You know, so it's one of my favorite motivational speeches is by David Foster called "This Is Water," and it talks. If you haven't seen it or read it, man, go online, go to YouTube. David Foster, "This Is Water." It is absolutely amazing. But anyway, he talks about life, and he talks about two young fish swimming this way, and one old wise fish swimming this way. And as they get ready to pass each other, the old wise fish looks at the two young fish and say, "Hey, gentlemen, how's the water?" And they look at them kind of crazy, and they keep swimming this way, and the old fish keep swimming that way. And as they get further down the stream, one of the young fish look at the other young fish and say, "What the hell is water?" And water is everything, right? It's their life. It gives them everything. It's everything. But see, because the young fish haven't experienced it yet, they take it for granted. They've been in water their whole life. It gives them everything, but they haven't slowed down to understand that it gives them everything, and this is part of the whole process. And the old fish is saying, like, "Hey, man, remember, you're all surrounded by water, the waves that come with it, the other fish all of that. This is water. And sometimes you got to sit back and experience it and know what it is." And he was trying to give those young fish something to say, and they didn't know what the hell is water? Because they had just took it for granted.
Yep.
And I think we do that sometimes in life. We're going through life and we're just going through it. And, you know, our parents do so much for us if we're blessed and lucky that we don't take the time to stop and say, okay, even the downs, we think the ups, we think graduation. You know, my book is called When Seconds Count. And major things happen in minor moments. But the truth is, there are no minor moments. Major things happen. We make them happen, right? We tend to think that major things is only when we graduate or get a promotion or get married or buy a house. But no, it's all those things in between that. And so I think sometimes when I was raised and brought up, I was aware of that voice. I always say, you know what? I mean, you know, and I'm a thinker, right? And I thought, okay, you mean to tell me that God was talking to people for thousands of years, and then all of a sudden he stopped talking to people? Well, no, I don't believe it. I think God still talks to us. We're just not writing it down, or maybe we are, but we're not writing it down in the books. But God still is talking to us, and there's still miracles that are being performed. The difference is, in order to perform a miracle, you got to do miracle-worthy things. You have to take risks on miracles for them to happen. If you don't attempt miracle-worthy things, how's a miracle going to happen? And so I tell my athlete, I tell my son, I say, in order to make the game-winning shot, you have to take the game-winning shot. You know, and in life, so many times we don't take the game-winning shot. We don't take the risk. We don't put ourselves in situations where the miracles can happen. And because I had that, my mind always thought like that when these instances came up, I was able to kind of jump on them.
Oh, so good. So good. All right. I come across so many individuals. I've experienced this myself, right? But I come across so many individuals who, when we hear like take the risk, when we like step out, do it, take ownership of your sport or school or like whatever, right? Or go do that thing. You know, our brains are wired to like protect us, right? First. So it's going to be like, whoa. Like, you know, I don't think that's safe. And, you know, you better punch something or run away or something like that. And you have this uncanny ability to just like lean in and be like, go. When you are talking with your athletes and you're talking with just individuals, right? Even your son, of like, when they come up against that, what advice do you give them to like help just like initiate that first step? Because I think the first step's the hardest. And then you're like, oh, that's not so bad. And then you keep going, right? But what advice do you give them just to propel forward?
You have to accept the fact that you could fail, that it might not work out. Just you're not telling them that it's going to work out. You have to accept the fact that it might not work out, but this is water. That's all part of the life. The hard part, the failures, this is all part of it. And it's hard. Now, listen, I'm not saying take uncalculated risks. I'm saying take risks, but they're calculated. That means give you an example. I run the 800, and you can either lead or you can follow, right? And I tell people, when I led races, I didn't just go to the race and say, you know what, I'm going to lead the race today. No, I practiced it. I worked on it and practiced it. Then I took the risk to lead and have everybody follow me. But it was a calculated risk. It was a risk, but it was calculated. I worked on it. So I'm not saying in life you're supposed to take these risks that you didn't, prepare for. I'm saying prepare for it, then take the risk, and you increase the chances and the odds in your favor, right? And then there's gonna come some times in which you got to take risks that's gonna have to come from your gut. That's God, and that's the universe. And the reason that's like that is because we have to remember. Now, this is deep, and I have to formulate the vocabulary to be able to explain it. Right now, if I told you in your mind, without saying a word, to just say, in your head, say, hey, Matt, you cannot move your mouth and not say nothing. In your head, you can say, hey, Matt. And the amazing thing is you just heard yourself say, hey, Matt. You heard, hey, Matt. You said, hey, Matt.
Yes.
But you didn't move your mouth and no sound came out. It's something in you that's there. There's something in us that's there that can make sounds, that can hear, that not hear with your ears, but you can hear it, not speak with your mouth. It's in there. That's the real you. And so there comes a part in that real you in there. It knows and feels and senses something that this can't, because this is matter. I use this as an example. My dog, if I'm walking somewhere, if I'm here, right, and I walk to the other room and my wife comes in with my dog, it'll sniff and then it'll come to that room. It'll find the room, right? Now, this was gonna trip you out. If I in this room and I go to the other room and my wife and my kids come, they can't smell me, but they have a nose to scent, just like. But that means it's a scent in here. But because we as humans don't have the capability of doing it, we can't do it. But it's here. Just like an eagle is something that we can't see. We're looking with our eyes. An eagle can see. So the universe and the world is so much more happening right here that we can't smell, taste, touch, or see, or feel, or hear. But it's here, right? And that inner part of us can feel and sense and touch that. And so sometimes our gut will tell us what to do and not to do. And we have to be in tune with ourselves to trust it.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
It's the times that in my life I've gotten in trouble is when I go away from that feeling.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's the right thing. I know I need to take that risk. I know, like, I feel it in my gut, and my brain's telling me, no. But that's always the right answer. Like, always the right answer.
Yeah.
I think it's so important for athletes and coaches and like every individual to understand like what you're saying, right? Yeah. Of if we feel that pull, it's not going reckless into that, but it's that belief that like, I'm going to believe that this feeling is real. I'm going to go do the thing. I'm going to try the thing. I'm going to at least step out and attempt the thing and learn and grow. And like, as I'm going through this process and understanding what water is and like how to evolve as I go.
The reason that we like or look up to the Nelson Mandelas or the JFKs or whomever it may be, Tom Brady's or whatever. The reason Tom Brady's story is so amazing is not just because he's the greatest of all time, greatest quarterback of all time. It's because he wasn't drafted to the 6th round or whatever. It's because he didn't start when he first went to Michigan. He didn't start when he first went to the pros. So that makes his story that much more amazing.
Yes.
Right? So we admire and look up to the people because we know how hard it really is. Right? Not because it was just easy all the time. We know how difficult it is. And that's so now when we look at things in that mindset, in the movie Troy with Brad Pitt, there's a point at the very beginning, and this is how my mind works. The little kid, they send this little kid to go get Brad Pitt because he gonna fight this giant. And he goes there to get Brad Pitt, and Brad Pitt's laying down with a couple of young ladies, and he wakes Brad Pitt up. And he said, "Hey, man, listen, they done sent me to come, and they want you to go fight." And Brad Pitt was like, "Oh, man, okay, I got to go fight again." So he puts on his clothes, he gets ready to get on his horse. And right before he get ready to leave, the kid said, "Now, listen, that dude you got about to fight, he's the biggest guy I've seen in my life. They say he ain't never lost a fight." And he was like, "I wouldn't want to fight him. I'd be afraid to fight him. I wouldn't fight him." And Brad Pitt said, "That's why no one would ever remember your name." And then so what I'm saying is sometimes doing those things is what we have to do because they're important because they're hard. And the odds are against you. And yeah, you might fall short, but that's all right.
Yeah.
That's what this is. That's what life is. It ain't just the accomplishing. It's the failing also. This is water. This is all part of it.
All water. I always say, I mean, we don't seek to fail, right? Nobody
No.
likes to fail.
No.
Let's be straight up. I mean, I want everything to go just hunky dory and things are great and wow, look at me, and never have the downward trajectory. But that's part of life, right? I always say that, you know, in your failures, you know, if nothing else, that's where the best stories come from.
Yeah.
Because then typically it's then a redemption story afterwards. So it's like you come up. It's so interesting.
You know, Les Brown says it's two things. He says our hard-headed failures in life is God's way of saying we have something better. That's the first thing. And he said, one that always gives me chills, he said, accomplishing a goal is not always as important as pursuing a goal. There's power in pursuit. Now, what does he mean by that? What he means is when I first started to try to run, and I was going to try to run a fast time, I wanted to run 141, right? I was a 150 guy, and I wanted to run 141. And I gave it all I had. I gave it everything. I dedicated myself the whole nine, and I didn't make it. I got to 143. But look how much further I've gone. Mm-hmm. Look how much better I got. So whenever we are trying to accomplish a goal, no matter if it's trying to lose weight, let's say you're trying to lose 100 pounds, right? And you lose 60. Okay, you didn't hit your goal of 100, but you lost 60. You're so much further down the road. Yep. You try to get a PhD. You got a master's degree. You're so much smarter. You try to bench 400 pounds and you only can bench 100. You bench 320. You're that much stronger. Yep. So sometimes accomplishing a goal is not always as important as accomplishing a goal is not always as important as pursuing a goal, because there's power in pursuit. And we have to tell ourselves that. So, right.
It's interesting because, like, we have 3 kids, right? 2 girls and a boy. And I talk to our kids about this a lot, where, you know, I was talking with the story I tell my kids is I was talking with one of my former high school teammates, right? And baseball was my sport, right? That I played. And he and I both played in college. We were fortunate to play there, and we actually played against each other for a couple games. So it was really kind of fun, right? So we're, you know, meeting in the outfield, you know, giving hugs and saying hey and all that stuff, right? That's a pretty rare thing when you come across 2 kids from Colorado who make it to, you know, a Division I school, separate schools. So it was just really cool seeing him. And he and I were talking a couple of years back about when you look at high school athletes, at what point, because there's always like the superstars, right? Mm-hmm. And they can continue to become superstars. But something we noticed was we were trying to figure out what year it happens where the kids who are like the grinders and workers all of a sudden kind of like start surpassing those individuals who aren't putting in the work. And we kind of came down to junior year of high school. I don't know if that's right or wrong, or, you know, but it's interesting because at the core of it, what I tell my kids is like what you're saying is like, are you willing to do the little things? Are you willing to put in the work that others aren't? Because at some point you're going to see this, the paths cross, and you are going just like that wise fish going the other way. You're going to surpass those individuals. Now, you have to have a level of talent. Yes, I understand that, right? You have to be, you know, born with some certain things, right? But I think it's like kind of fascinating looking at that. So what do you think is more important? Is it the talent that you're born with, or the work ethic that you like have every day?
Well, it's going to be the work ethic, because even with talent, you still have, listen, God gave everybody talent. That's the way it is. But even with talent, you have to work hard. Now, working hard, you can get yourself up to a very, 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 very high level. I mean, you can go pro in any sport by just putting the hard work in. That's a fact, 100%. So to get to certain levels, you have to the working hard is super, because and the reason is because we can develop our bodies and we can develop our minds. So we can take ourselves to be superhuman. Now, the only caveat is, okay, LeBron James, he just has to be born, right?
Yeah. Yes.
There are exceptions to that level, right? But it's not many of them, right? But everybody else, I mean, look at Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant has a story to say, man, when he was in high school, he didn't get invited to all the parties. So he just dribbled his basketball and worked on his craft. And so you're going to get those stories most of the time. The guys and the girls that are just super talented, they'll get to a certain level, but at some point, that's not going to be enough. And that's the truth. Now, here's the bigger thing about this. If you don't work on your skill set and work on your mind and all those types of things, when you're finished with your sport, now you're going to have a problem. You see, when you're working on your skill set and you're not so talented, those same attributes carry over to other parts of life. Yep. And what we find now, even more so than before, is that we find these young kids and teenagers that when they get to the collegiate level and they get to a certain age and they encounter an issue, a problem, something hard, a lot of them break. And the reason is they never had to solve a problem or an issue on their own or by themselves. They've always had somebody else, their parents or somebody else, bail them out or help them out or whatever. They've never had to reach deep down inside themselves and find out who and what that is and can that help them succeed. And some people are lucky enough that they can go through life and always have people help them out, or their parents or they whatever that is. And that's good, great for them. But most of us, that's not going to be the case. And so we better develop that inner tenacity, that inner confidence, that fight, the being able to handle pain and failures and setbacks and move forward if we want to be successful, and more so if we want to teach that to our kids, because they might not be as lucky as we were.
How do you approach that? Because a lot of what you're talking about is like, we own our success, right? I mean, if I can not simplify it, but like, we own our success, right? And as I remember back in the day, like as an athlete, sometimes I'd be like waiting for somebody to tell me what to do. Now I worked hard and I did my extra swings and all that sort of stuff. But sometimes I'm like, man, I guess if I need extra work, the coach will tell me. Mm-hmm. And now I know, like, not the opposite to be true, but it's like, I wasn't taking full ownership of like my performance of and approaching the coach and be like, and not even from a place of like, hey, coach, what do I need to work on? Which is it's an okay question to ask, but I should have maybe looked at it like, hey, coach, what do I need to work on? Here's 3 things I've identified that I'm either working on, or I think where my gaps are. Am I seeing something that I'm not? Can I get that extra help? It's like more tactical, more intentional with that stuff. But how do you coach like the athletes you're working with now and to like truly take ownership, right? Because some don't want to, some really do.
Listen, but it's this simple. You can identify and share with them that that's the path. I always say this as a coach: if you're coachable, trainable, and teachable, I can make you unstoppable. If you're coachable, trainable, and teachable, I can make you unstoppable. I can make you and help you win. I can help you want to win. You have to want it. You have to already want it. So what I'm saying is, I can present that this is the path. You have to but if you don't have that in you, if you don't say, oh, that's the path, and then lock on to that, it's nothing else nobody else can do. Here's the facts. I don't care what the sport is. I don't care if it's entrepreneurship. I don't care if it's being rich, starting a business. The people that's at the top are obsessed. It's no other way in nothing. Success leaves clues. It just is. It's one of the biggest clues success leaves in any field. I don't care what it is in any field. They all have a coach, mentor, or a teacher. Tiger Woods, let's say he had a golf coach. You're supposed to be the best golfer in the world. You got a golf coach. Michael Jordan, basketball coach. Tom Brady, quarterback coach. You're like, nobody can quarterback better than you. They all got best boxer. Everybody talk to Warren Buffett. He has a mentor, and you the rich, whatever. It don't matter. That's a clue. And we see the best in every field that has a coach or a mentor, and we trying to do it on our own. We don't want to invest in ourselves to get a coach or a mentor to help us along, but the best in everything, that's a clue. I don't care if every president has some mentor that every last one of them. So that's one thing that kind of helps along. But then secondly, when I was a professional runner, I don't think most people really take into account the people that's really like this at the top, how really obsessed and different they are. I don't think we really, until we dig deep into the weeds and find out, like they talked about Kobe when he was his first or second year and he missed those air balls and he didn't even go home after the playoff. He went straight to the gym. Or we talk about, man, listen, they did an interview with Tom Brady. And this is after he had already won 3 or 4 Super Bowls. I mean, he'd already won 3 or 4 Super Bowls, 3-time, 4-time Super Bowl MVP. Like, he was already the man. And they asked him about his experience in college. And as he was telling them his story experience in college, he was talking about the draft day. And as they went through the first round, the second round, and third round, he hadn't got drafted. He said he remembered being in his house and so mad and so down that he couldn't draft. He had to get up and go for a walk, and his dad went for a walk with him. And as Tom Brady's telling this story, he's crying. He's crying, reliving, telling the story that his dad was outside walking with him because he hadn't been drafted in the first 3 rounds. You can't coach. They got to have that, right? They got to. That's something that's different. Or, like I said with Kobe would say, man, I practice so much that it gets to a point that no matter how much they practice, they'll never catch me. I mean, that's just a different way of thinking. You get what I'm saying? So these guys, so when we would go to, check this out, I had 2 stories that I like to tell. When we go to Europe, because for track, you go to Europe for like a month or 2 months. So you go to Africa, wherever, you go there for 2 months. Yep. And as we get ready to go for our trip, we pack our stuff up. So one of the things that I noticed some of the young ladies would do is they would bring peanut butter. And like, Europe has peanut butter. If you go to Germany or Britain or whatever, they have peanut butter. So
it's healthier too.
Yeah. So the thing is, why in the world are you going to go to Europe? You have all this money, you get everything, lots of stuff free, whatever. Because they didn't have that type of peanut butter. So they were like, yeah, I know I can get peanut butter there. But see, here every day before I do my morning run, I eat toast and this peanut butter. I know how my body feels on this peanut butter. And I can't take a risk of going there and not having this peanut butter. So that's one story. Second story, I was at Ohio State. When I worked at Ohio State, we had a wrestler. His name was, I forgot it real quick, but he was a Olympic gold medalist, and he wrestled at Ohio State. But anyway, we had got back from a cross-country meet, and it was late and it was cold. And I was putting up everything, and I saw this guy. He was all covered up like this, so I couldn't see him. I saw him trying to get into the indoor facility. And it was like a Friday night, a Saturday night, I can't remember which day. And I saw him like, hey, I was like, man, you can't get in here. It's locked. He said, man, I need to get into that facility. I was like, nah, it's locked. It's like 8:39 at night. You can't, he said, no, I need to get in there and do something. I said, you can't do it tomorrow. No, I got to do it today. I was like, what do you need to go in this facility and do stuff? He said, I got to do some core stuff. I said, just do something. No, I need to do it on that machine that's in there. I said, you're at least a young wrestler. I said, what's your name? And he told me his name. My point is, the reason he was an Olympic gold medalist is because he was saying, now remember, he's in college at Ohio State, and it's a Friday or Saturday night. And he's an athlete, a star athlete. So there's 1,000,001 things to do, 1,000,001 girls to do. Yep. And yeah, he could have did the court in the morning, and yeah, he could have did it tomorrow morning, and yeah, he could have did a different type of court, but he said, no. I got to do that workout on that machine tonight. That's why. They want to think it's all that other stuff. No, it's that.
Yep. And you see that, and I hear that over and over and over again. And to your point, success leaves clues.
Yep.
And if you start seeing these patterns of the great athletes, like the KDs of the world, that wrestler, like all these different people, right? It's how do we start replicating that? How do we start understanding like that's the path?
Well,
you walk down the path.
Well, some people didn't get the memo. They don't know about it. They're not watching this show. They're not reading the books. So once you see, that's what, again, a mind expanded never goes back to its original form. I can tell you another story that I was in Korea once. I've been a lot of times, but the first time I went to Korea, I went to the little tourist, I went to like the more popular eating area. And I was there, I saw this black female. And I'm like, whoa, because, she stood out, and she wasn't with our group, the runners. She was there, and I walked up to her, and I started talking to her, and she was a teacher in Korea. So anyway, she offered to take me to dinner. We went out to dinner or whatever. And it was like 8:30, and we started seeing all these little kids in uniforms. And I said, why am I seeing all these kids in uniforms? She said, oh, they're coming from school. And I say, school? It's like 8-something. She said, no. They go to regular school, and when they leave regular school, they got to go to another school. And I said, why? And she said, because when you go to that other school, you make better grades and you get into the best middle school. Well, why is it that important to get to the best middle school? Because that's the only way you can get to the best high school. Well, why is it that? Well, that's the only way you can get to the best college. And as I saw this happening, I started thinking. I said, man, they doing that much more studying. Then I started thinking, it hit me. I used to train at Santa Monica College in LA, Santa Monica College. And on weekends, my wife and I would go to the track and we'd do runs and stuff, and we would see the library. And it was always a good amount of Asian Americans or Asians in the library. And I put two and two together. I say, man, is it possible that they're making such good grades because they're just doing so much more work? I learned that they had a program that did the repetition stuff called Kumon. You see them everywhere, Kumon.
Oh.
This is just my story. From that day on, I put my kids in Kumon. And I'm telling you, it's been amazing. So the point I'm saying is you can see things in certain areas in life that has success that works, but then you got to recognize it and then be willing to put the work in.
Yes.
Now, there's more than one way, obviously, but the principles are there.
Principles are the same. Did you ever struggle asking for help? You personally?
In unfamiliar environments, yes.
Okay.
Not in environments where I knew people or I had family and stuff like that. But when I first got here, when I was a student, the world was it was so different.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't. I struggled then. Yeah. Now
Yes.
I don't struggle as much as if I need help because I just understand. To be quite honest with you, most people want to help. They just do. Most people, Les Brown said there's not many bad people in the world. There's only about 10 to 15 of them. They move around a lot, but it ain't that many of them, right? So most people actually do want to help.
Yes. I think that's such a powerful point. And I appreciate you answering that, because one of the principles that I like to teach and talk to people about is, and again, we all get to a place of fearful. And I don't think I've met a person in this world who hasn't carried some sort of fear inside them, just asking for help. It can be scary. It can be because nobody wants to look stupid. Nobody wants to look like they don't know what they're doing, like all that sort of stuff, right? Like nobody wants that.
Mm-hmm.
But when we look at the successful people, like Tom Brady, greatest quarterback of all time, to use your example, and he's asking a quarterback coach who barely played in the NFL, or maybe even didn't play in the NFL, of like, so how do I approach this? Well, that person has a different skill set and they want to help. It's not that they're hired by the team. Yes, that's true, but that person wants to help. And for these young kids especially, I think that understanding that like we all get to points where we're like, ooh, do I want to do that? But the successful people understand that I must do that.
Well, it's in every spiritual book. Ask and you shall receive. It's every last one of them. It's in all of them. Ask and you shall receive. It don't say, what it means is it doesn't tell you when you're going to receive. See, that's the thing that gets us. Mm-hmm. The principles work. The challenge is because we don't know when it's going to work. It's like calling your kid by their name. My son's name is Zion, right? When he was born, I say Zion. He didn't even respond. After a couple of months, Zion, he didn't respond. Zion, he didn't respond. Zion, he didn't respond. And after a while, I say Zion, I said, I got it. Zion, he responds. He knows his name. Now, if I would have known that it's going to take me 787 times to say Zion, he responded, as soon as he was born, I would have got it from Zion, and I would have got I had the smartest kid in the world.
Yes.
But we don't know which one it's going to be. So we just keep asking and keep calling.
Yes.
And that's what happens because we don't know when it's going to come. A lot of people give up too soon. But we have to do the same thing we would do when we calling our child by their name. Keep going forward until it responds. And again, if it doesn't happen, you're further along than you were when you started.
Darn right. Darn right. Taking this step forward without this expectation of something in return. Yeah. I hear a lot in especially the youth kind of high school world, and this happens in college too, where a lot of athletes will go up to their coach and be like, well, when am I, like, I think I deserve more playing time. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, maybe, And it goes back to all these principles, right? Of, are you actually doing the extra work? Are you willing to do these things? Because life's not guaranteed. Life's not handed to you. It's like what you want is not always what's supposed to happen at that moment. Or right then, right there.
And I tell my athletes, I say, listen, here's the reality. I only win if you win. Like, if you do good, it make me look good. You know what I'm saying? Like, the better you do, the better it is for me. I'm not like, I don't win if you lose.
Yep.
So if if that's not happening, you gotta dig deeper and say, okay, why am I not playing, right? Why am I not getting as much playing time, right? And 9 times out of 10, it's something else. It's rarely is it they just don't want you to be successful. It's like, really?
Yep. So true. All right. 2 last questions for you.
All right.
One will be like, how can people buy your book and find, all that sort of stuff, right? We'll get to that one in a minute. But now that you're a coach, who is one of the most influential coaches you had, and how did he or she help just you improve, you get better, you be your best self, and how does it impact how you coach today?
I've been very, very fortunate to have had some really good coaches, not because they knew the X's and O's, but because they were good people. When I was in elementary school, and I still talk to this coach, I was with him 2 weeks ago watching my son play football, Coach Michael Littlejohn. He coached me when I was in elementary school and middle school, and he used to say, winners never quit and quitters never win. And he used to say, excuses are for those who make them, and son, you're making an excuse. And that was, I was elementary school, and like I said, I was with him 2 weeks ago. Yep. After that, I had, my high school football coach, Coach Rob, and then I had Coach McKenzie, whom I see all the time here. He's 83 years old. I still see him out there running. He recruited me here at TCU, and, he was probably almost every major decision I've made since college to now, he's had some input in it. And then, so he was my coach here at TCU. He's my financial advisor, and, we're ridiculously close. And then Joe Douglas, who was with the Santa Monica Track Club that I ran with, and I just saw him. He just turned 88. We just celebrated his birthday with Carl Lewis, Steve Lewis, and all these Olympic gold medalists and the whole nine. And then Frank Little was a coach that I worked with, and he really had a huge influence because he was able to put it all together and make me see things properly. When you're an athlete, or when you're a person that's kind of been successful for a long time, all of us can be blinded. We have blind spots, right? And at some point, and this is, 50 Cent, the rapper 50 Cent, partnered with Robert Greene, who wrote the 48 Laws of Power, and they came up with a book called The 50th Law. And the first one is be an intense realist. And that's say, see the world how it really is, not how you want it to be. That's very hard for us. It's very, very difficult. And when you're an athlete or when you're successful, sometimes you're surrounded or you're in environments where things are very favorable for you or to you, and you get treated, or you have more instant credibility because of the successes you've had. Whereas others, if they wasn't a super athlete or if they wasn't born rich or whatever, they have to build their credibility. People are not just going to think they're credible because they was an Olympic champion or whatever the situation may be. So as I navigated the world from being a professional athlete to the real world, I ran into some hiccups, because once you get into the real world and I went in that realm, I had to see the world for how it really was. People wasn't seeing me as Khadevis Robinson, the USA champion, NCAA champion, whatever. I was just a guy. And I had to understand that up until that point, most athletes, up until you get out of college, you have been around teachers and coaches that absolutely wanted the best for you. Yep. They really wanted you to be successful in your life and in your field and everything. Their decisions was based on, if you asked them some information, they was giving you the best decisions because they wanted you to be successful. You get out into the real world, it's not like that. Yep. And that's a blow. Because you're used to people. You start trusting people. You trust that they're going to give you the right answer, the best. You trust they want the best for you. And up until that point, all the teachers, coaches, and everybody, they really want you to, they when you succeed, they're so happy.
Yes.
But then you get in that real world, it ain't like that. And they can throw you off.
Yep.
So I was fortunate enough to get that message right there from Dr. Frank Little, who I had a pretty good relationship with. And so I've had some really good coaches, and I'm leaving some out, but for the context of this conversation now, those are the ones that come to mind.
It's so powerful. And you can tell you coach that way, right?
Yep.
I haven't even known you very long, and I can tell you coach that way. And that's what's so powerful if I continue to integrate those lessons. So for you coaches listening right now, right, it's taking the good, the bad from the past and figuring out what mark do you want to leave, and how do you want people to see reality, and how do you want your athletes to approach things and understand these principles and show them the path and hopefully encourage them to continue to walk the path.
But it's you though. So the thing I like to tell coaches, so many coaches want to get online or go somewhere and if they football, they want to do what Nick Saban did or do what this other coach. No, it's you. Now you got to learn from them. Mm-hmm. But the way you're going to say something is going to resonate with that kid differently than the way somebody else says it. The way Nick Saban says something and did things is going to be totally different than the other guy. The other guy can come in there and try to say it the same way. It won't work. It's like telling your spouse you love them or telling your kids you love them. Somebody's going to say, it ain't going to be the same.
Yep.
So when you get into coaching, the first thing you have to realize is your why. Why are you into coaching? Then secondly, do you want to really have a transformational or transactional relationship? And that's fine. In this world now, some coaches take it as just business. And I get it. And that's the one thing that I will say, if there's anything that kind of that makes me upset a little bit, is that when we were younger, coaches was an extension of the family. It was all transformational. But it has become a point in some aspects that it become like a business because coaches want to keep their jobs and they got to pay mortgages and they got to raise their kids and they got to keep their jobs and all that type of stuff. So it's kind of a business. And if you're my age or older, you're lucky because the odds are when we was kids, coaches didn't make a lot of money. They really loved coaching. They really cared. If my parents was late picking me up, or if I didn't have a ride home, my parents could feel comfortable if I was with my coach, that I was going to be all right and I was going to have something to eat and I was going to be safe and they was going to want the best for me. Yes. If my coach said he or she thought I should do this, they felt safe knowing that they were saying that because there was no alternative motives in any of that.
Yes.
Now you got to figure out they want you to do this and do that because they want to post that they sent somebody there and all this silliness. So a coach got to figure out which one you want to be. Right? Do you want to be that coach that the kids going to, the people going to remember you because the effect you had in their lives? I always say, as a parent, and and I'm lucky enough to have my mom and dad is both still living, but my stepfather, I was raised by my stepfather. He passed my senior year in high school, and I always say if my kids can feel about me as a father like I felt like with my stepfather, then I've been successful as a father. And I say, if my athletes can feel about me the way I feel about the coaches that coach me, I've been a success. No matter if I win a championship, no matter if I get voted the best coach of the year and all these other coaches say you're a good coach and you're the greatest and I get all these awards, screw off, forget all that. Yep. Those are good. That's fine. But for me, if I have athletes that I've worked with, and I get this when I get chills, and they say, you know what, and they feel about me the way I feel about the coaches that I've had in my life, I've been successful. Yes. I'll tell you this, when I was at TCU, I was a social work major, and we used to do a field placement where we had to go stuff and get our hours in. Mm-hmm. And it's a school right across the street that we did a field placement with, and I went there, and I was just getting my hours in, working with the kids. I was doing my time. And I would say all these little quotes, and I would work with the kids, but this is before the internet was here. So lo and behold, I graduated, went to go run pro, moved to California. Then the internet came up. You have Facebook. So after about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years after I graduated, I get a message from somebody that I didn't know. Some kids say, Mr. Robinson. Off the bat, I knew it was something up because I wasn't old enough for people to call me Mr. Robinson, right?
Yes.
A couple of years out of college, right? And I see this person, and he says, hey, you might not remember me, but my name is so-and-so. I'm that little kid you used to work with right by TCU. And I remember you used to say this and say that and say this and say that. And I'm like, what? You was listening to me? And he said, I just want you to know that I ended up going to the military. I'm going to college. And what you said had an influence and made an impact on my life. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Amazing.
I'm reading it on Facebook. Amazing. That's what this is about.
The impact we can have on other people around us, teammates, as coaches, as just human beings.
Yep.
Don't take it lightly.
Don't take it lightly. If my athletes can tell a story about me, like I'm telling you about Coach Frank Little and Coach Joe Douglas and Coach McKenzie and all those people, I've been successful. All that other stuff is cute and it's cool and it's good, and we'll do that and we'll have that. But the impact I'm trying to have is an impact so they tell their kids, son, man, I had this coach, man, and this and that, this and that, this and that. And their kids say, man, my dad was amazing. And my dad said he had a coach that this and that. Man, that's what I want right there.
Yes. You are, I could keep this, I'm going to have to fly down to TCU and I'm just going to follow you around, man. And I love it. It's, life is about passion, and you have it. And for all those watching right now, like if you can take a piece, like a little sliver of the passion that Khadevis has right now, like I caramba, like what could be like for you to like jolt your day and go have an impact on people and just understand like why you do this, like what you're after, knowing that people have walked the walk before, they've done it, and it's up and down, and there's trials that you're going to face. But you have examples like UKD who's like, I keep walking. And we just all have that opportunity, that choice, like right there in front of us every single second of every single day to go do that thing.
And it is meant for you. Like you direct your story, right? Every human being direct their own story. And you go, but just know there's going to be this. That's life. This is water. That's going to happen. So when it goes like this, don't think, oh my goodness, something's wrong. And when it goes up here, don't be like, I've arrived. And then this is part of the deal. And understand that if you have that goal in your heart, if you truly, I don't mean like you just want to be rich because you want to show off, but if something keeps popping in your head and keeps popping in your heart, that means the universe and God has put it in there. You have to listen to that, and you have to start working toward it. And when you start putting it out there, you'll start seeing more of it. You know, in the movie The Matrix, I'm going to tell you something. The movie The Matrix, there's a part when the Neo goes to look with the Oracle. And as he's meeting with the Oracle, she does all this stuff, and then finally she looks at him, and then she looks in his mouth, and she does all this silly stuff, and she says, man, you got all this gift, but, and she don't even finish it, and he says, I'm not the one, right? And she says, bingo. Now check this out. Later on, we come to find out he really was the one. So why in the hell did she say, he said it? She never said it. She said, you got it, but, and she never finished it. He finished it and said he's not the one. And not until he made a decision, and it all happens. This happens in all our life. There comes a point where we say, man, I got to make more money this time. I want a better life. I want to be a better coach. I want to do this, this, and that. We make a decision and we go for it. Not until he got to a point, he got tired of running. He saw the agent. He went to run. He go, man, God, forget it. I'm tired of running. At some point in your life, you might say, I'm not drinking no more alcohol. You might say, I'm not having these negative thoughts about myself. You might say, I'm not going to allow them to talk to me like this no more, whatever it may be. And he decided, he stopped. And the other people say, what's going on? What is he doing? See, they didn't understand. And what did Morpheus say? He said, he's starting to believe. It just took that process. If he would have believed when the Oracle said, he said, well, I'm the one. Hold on, I'm the one. I know I'm the one. What are you saying? Then she was like, yeah, you are the one. But he said he wasn't. He wasn't believing. She said, bingo. Mm-hmm. And until he got fed up from all the running and fed up from not succeeding and fed up from all the nest, until he said, you know what? It's enough. Enough. I'm not enough. And what does he do? Oh, he's starting to believe. That's how life works.
I can't thank you enough for spending time with me. I'm ready to run through a wall, man.
Appreciate it, man. We'll do this again.
You get me rocking and rolling over here. How can people connect with you?
Just Khadevis. You type in Khadevis, Instagram, LinkedIn, the whole nine. My website, I'm getting it redone because I'm a sports envoy ambassador. I work with the USA State Department. I go to Guyana and Zimbabwe and all these different places and speak. I didn't have that on my site. And as a head coach, my site was more so with what I was doing before. And so now, because I'm a head coach, and now I'm doing a little bit more with the Sports Envoy, I want that to reflect it. But if you type in my name, go to my Instagram, mostly Instagram, Twitter, or just contact me, you can see kind of everything I'm doing. But I'm really passionate about the sports diplomacy. So any opportunity I get to do anything with sports, because I've seen it change. It's changed my life. I've seen how it affects people's lives, and you'll be amazed the work and the gratitude that people have when you work with them.
That's amazing. And I'm going to put all the links so everybody can connect with you and go check it out and buy your book and do all that sort of stuff. If you have a minute, I'll wrap us up here, Khadevis, but and I'll stop the recording. But everyone watching, listening right now, I just want to thank you so much for spending the time with me, right? As Khadevis said, like, success leaves clues, right? And like I said earlier, like, if you pick up one thing, even if it's just that passion and fire and excitement, but all the nuggets that he laid out, and take one thing and implement it, like take action upon it, do something with it, take one step forward, like ask for help in one area. I don't care if it's school or sports or like a relationship. I don't care what it is, but you take one step forward today, you are going to be walking down the path in the life that you can create for yourself.
Yep.
Katie, can't thank you so much. Everyone watching, can't thank you so much. And we'll see you on the next interview.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.